Good day, and welcome to Hip History Campus, where I try to teach to the hippocampus. I consolidate historical events, facts, and analysis so that you can consolidate your thoughts before acing the test. I'm your host, Caleb Brown, and today's episode is on the first empires of the world. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow this channel for more quality educational content. Ready? Let's travel back in time. So today, we're discussing the first empires ever seen in the world. Empires only exist through conquest, and conquest leads to a trade of human culture as much as it leads to a trade of any merchant's goods. When people trade ideas and commodities, law is established to preserve the participation of people in the empire. The people that we're going to discuss today include Sargon, Hammurabi, Nebuchadnezzar, and Zoroaster. Why is all of this important, you ask? Well, this is the rise of the first civilization ever with written law. Furthermore, it stands to test that our legal systems today would not exist without this legal precedent. It's the very reason that Hammurabi is featured in the frieze of the United States Supreme Court room. First up, we have Sargon, and Sargon builds the first empire around 2300 BC. Sargon was the ruler of the Akkadians, who invaded the city-states of Sumer that we discussed in the last episode. Sargon was a strong ruler who conquered many lands, but when he died, his empire crumbled. Out of the ashes of the Akkadians comes Hammurabi, the king of the Babylonians. He comes to power around 1790 BC. His legacy is rooted in his effort to codify or arrange written laws. He was the first ruler to ever engage in such an activity and had his laws published in stone for the people to see. Furthermore, Hammurabi also creates civil law within his writings. He does this in order to provide justice for those involved with private rights. These rights include business, property, taxes, marriage, and even divorce. The last thing that we'll discuss with Hammurabi is his contributions to defining crime and punishing offenders. Now, this is where you've heard the famous eye for an eye expression, but did you know that in Hammurabi's Code of Laws, if a house collapsed because of poor construction and the owner died as a result, the house's builder could be put to death? That's not the worst one. Check them out at this link. Next up are the Hittites. The Hittites are significant for their advancement in the form of ironworking. Ironworking led to new weapons, which made conquest all the easier, as their armaments were superior to those that they conquered. Their empire eventually collapsed, but their methods in ironworking spread, leading to the Iron Age around 1200 BC. Now let's discuss everyone's favorite fearful ancient empire warriors, the Assyrians. Around 1100 BC, with the ironworks that they had acquired from the Hittites, the Assyrians set out on a 500-year quest to become the most fearsome warriors in the ancient world. And they sure did. In the same time period, an Assyrian king named Ashurbanipal founded one of the world's first libraries at the city of Nineveh. Now back again for round two is the Babylonians, and their revival is brought to you by Nebuchadnezzar. He unifies his people and crushes the Assyrians. Nebuchadnezzar was not only just a war hawk, he had the patience for governance. He sponsored the rebuilding of canals, roads, defenses, and even temples. Many of his endeavors last to this day. Most notably, the Ishtar Gate, and even the rumored wonder of the world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The last major empire that we're discussing today is the Persians. The Persian Empire was the largest seen in the world at that point, and they were noted as practicing a policy of tolerance towards the people that they conquered. This behavior led to Darius I, who is seen as the true unifier of the Persian Empire. Darius I was able to set up a bureaucratic government, and in this bureaucratic government he had officials called satraps. Darius I also made efforts to enable more productivity in economic life by promoting a coin-based money economy. Most people in the Persian Empire, however, continued to rely on a barter economy. In this environment, a new religion is able to gain foothold. The religious thinker Zoroaster proposed that one omniscient God, Ahura Mazda, ruled the world and everything in it. He also stated that Ahura Mazda had a sinister enemy whom he battled named Ahriman, the Prince of Lies. Today's primary source is Hammurabi's Code. At the start of his written laws, Hammurabi goes on a long, drawn-out grandstand that can be best summed up by the following quote: "When Marduk sent me to rule over men, to give the protection of the right to the land, I did right and righteousness in, and brought about the well-being of the oppressed." The last excerpt from Hammurabi's Code of Laws is my personal favorite. "If anyone owe a debt for a loan, and a storm prostrates the grain, or the harvest fail, or the grain does not grow for lack of water, in that year he need not give his creditor any grain. He washes his debt tablet in the river, and pays no rent for this year." I like this quote because it makes it seem like the rest of Hammurabi's laws are not filled with laws erroneously putting people to death for minor offenses. Our secondary source today is Lost Civilization, Empires of Mesopotamia by Don Nardo. Don Nardo is a historian and an award-winning author who specializes in ancient history. He's written many books for young readers. In this book, he discusses the rise and fall of the empires that we discussed today. Our memory tool for today is the phrase, "all birds hate planes." All stands for the Akkadian Empire. Think Sargon's short empire. B stands for Babylonian Empire. Think Hammurabi's Code and Nebuchadnezzar's city works. H stands for the Hittites. Think that they have the power of iron, but the secret gets out. And P stands for the Persian Empire. Think tolerance for the people that they conquered, satraps, and Zoroastrianism. Now it's time for our closure and review. Today we learned a great deal about numerous empires who spread all across ancient Mesopotamia. If you can remember these three following things, then you'll ace the test. 1. Hammurabi's written law changed the world and set legal precedent for our laws today. 2. The Hittites had iron weapons, which made them successful until everyone else caught up. 3. The Persian Empire practiced tolerance and developed a new religion called Zoroastrianism.